surrounded by all of these generals. Steve Memetic came on InfoWars around about the time of the election and said, this is a soft coup, that, white hat members of the military and intelligence community have grown fed up with the Clintons being above the law and with the absolute careless disregard for national security. And so we are implementing something that's been planned for a long time, a takeover of the country with Donald Trump as our leader. And if you look at what the differences between the two parties, the Democrats had absolutely atrocious technology knowledge, atrocious. Hillary Clinton's talking about she's going to wipe a server with a cloth. They're smashing up Blackberries with hammers. They don't even realize they've been synced to other servers. They're using password as their password. I mean, it was just abysmal. That these people should leave the country against the Russians and the Chinese and the Israelis. No way. Well, meanwhile, when you look at Trump, and there's a great article in Scout.ai called "The Rise of the Weaponized AI Propaganda Machine." I'd recommend everybody read that article. It's pretty mind-blowing. And he talks about a firm called Cambridge Analytica, which Steve Bannon is on the board of, and Robert Mercer is the owner of. And Cambridge Analytica is one of these companies, a private company that got access to DARPA technology. So they were able to take this weaponized AI technology and they were able to apply it at a micro level to targeting voters. So reading a little bit from this article, basically they by just looking at Facebook, they found that from an average of 68 likes, they could predict the person's skin color with 95% accuracy, sexual orientation with 88% accuracy, and whether they're Democrat or Republican with 85% accuracy. That's just if they liked 68 things on Facebook, right? But it didn't stop there. Intelligence, religious affiliation, alcohol, cigarette, and drug use could all be determined. You could even deduce whether someone's parents were divorced. The strength of the modeling was illustrated by how well it could predict the subject's answers. So they keep continually working on and refining these models. This is the private sector model. So presumably Cambridge Analytica doesn't have access to the full version of our digital self. It just has what any old marketer has access to from dealing with Facebook and getting the databases this way, which is still an enormous amount. But they said if they're trying to work out what a person would do or think and how well do they know the person, right? If they have 70 likes, they know more than the person's friends know. 150 likes, they know more than what the parents know. 300 likes is more than what the partner knew. And then with even more than that, unnamed, they can surpass what a person thinks they know about themselves. Now, this is available now. If these guys can do it, anyone can do it. But I hypothesize that they had access to some of the military systems that were doing this as well. But anyway, they're saying that the Trump campaign was using 40 to 50,000 different variants of ads every day, and then they are continuously measuring responses and then adapting and evolving based on that response. I mean, it's absolute genius to do this in a political campaign. And, Hillary Clinton can't even go to a state to campaign at a rally, or can't even draw people to her rallies. And that she's up against this artificial intelligence. They never had a chance. But I don't believe that this is a Russian weapon. This is American-developed weapon. This is a Stanford Research Institute that's building this stuff. And I got a graph there of the swing to the election and in how many different states this voting swung from Democrat to Republican. And it's some pretty major swings. This is the thing that was fueling it. And I just on the AI, since 2012, there have been 2,250 venture capital investment deals in the artificial intelligence sector. $15 billion has been invested in it. Now, that's privately, so we don't know how much the Defense Department puts into this stuff, but I would say probably way more than that. Moving on to slide 22, the military meme magic. And these criteria for a fantastic presentation on military memetics from 2011 that I've got a link to in the slides there. But, we saw during the 2016 election these meme wars using Twitter and Reddit and 4chan and, Facebook. They basically would create memes with political messages, and then everyone would like them and share them. Well, this has been an actual military project. There's this long military manual here of how to design these memes and why. It's really, I find this whole paper quite fascinating, but it's quite technical. There are 4 different DARPA projects related to this listed on the screen here, including one that's in progress about narrative networks. And so here we have, again, the hero's journey, the narrative. Give burners this message and then watch them repeat these memes to the network. But it defines here a meme as a cognitive information structure able to replicate using human hosts and to influence their behavior to promote replication. So a meme is almost like a biological virus. It wants to invade our mind, and then it wants to convince us to replicate and share the meme. That's the purpose of it. It's designed for that. But later on, they get into some quite interesting stuff in this document. It says, to ripen the person for self-sacrifice, he must be stripped of his individual identity, most drastically by complete assimilation of the individual in the collective body. The individual fully assimilated into the collective never feels alone. To be cast out from the group is the equivalent of being cut off from life. The collectivized individual is in a primitive state of being, equivalent to that in primitive tribes. Mass movements strive to approximate this primitive perfection. So, there it is all right there. It's Burning Man right there, self-sacrifice, conformity with the group. We want you in this group so we can send memes to you, and then you replicate these memes. Moving on, slide 23, deep target knowledge. One of the things that Snowden brought with him when he left the NSA was an archive of the NSA's internal newsletter. And this is one of their editions from 2003.
It's launched again. Hopefully it's going again and clears up. Please let me know, folks, if it's back up on your ends. It's hard for us to tell here.
Target knowledge. It's from the technical leader for their Russian product line. He says, analysts often overlook the importance of understanding the psychology and culture of their target. Right? So the NSA, they're concerned about psychology and they're concerned about culture, right? It isn't just signals. And what they want to do is they want to operate to the maximum.
You'll need MS PowerPoint to open it.
Yeah, I'll turn it into a PDF after the show, and then that'll be downloadable from burners.me. But anyway, one of the clips I've got attached to this slide is Snowden himself saying the thing that really freaked him out and creeped him out the most of everything he saw at the NSA was their ability to get inside of people's heads and actually read their thoughts, to see their thoughts as they're being formed in real time. We're talking here, I mean, this is 2003. Their intention was to get inside the headspace. So now we're moving on to effects-based operations. And this initially began as a DARPA project to create a tool that could model and assess socio-political influences on potential adversaries. And so this is coming back to the Cass Sunstein nudging idea. How do we get people to act in a certain way? Well, the non-kinetic method of it is through subtle suggestions, propaganda, human, infiltration, leadership, whatever. There are many different ways to achieve a desired set of outcomes. And this field of effects-based operations is really about the military modeling the scenario and what the factors are that can influence the scenario, and then simulating thousands, millions of possible outcomes. If we do this, what will happen? And then the planners can choose from the different simulated scenarios what they think is most likely to get the effect that they want. And it can mix kinetic and non-kinetic warfare. So, one effect might be send in a tank and shoot everyone. That's kinetic. But before the military does that, they might send in a guy with, the baby lamb from Jim Channon saying, do you guys want to surrender or not? The outcome will be the same. The military controls that village of the enemy. So moving on to slide 25, this is one of the main guys who's come up with it, Lee Wagenhals. And he's designed all of these AI-based systems for the military for effects-based operations while working at George Mason University. And as we've shown in earlier episodes, after the internet was launched and the World Wide Web was live, the command and control center shifted from the Presidio out to George Mason University. The idea of this effects-based operations is also attrition-based modeling. And one of the famous generals fighting war with attrition as a weapon is a general called Fabius. They called him the cunctator, which means the delayer. And the Fabian society is actually completely based on this philosophy of warfare, that if we just do enough slow things and for long enough, we just chip away at the edges over a long period of time, eventually we will get the outcome that we desire. And he was able to defeat Hannibal with a much weaker force by following this strategy. And that's why the Fabian society, they move very, very slowly, but the cumulative effects of all of the steps are very large. And so this is modeling it for the military. And in modeling adversarial networks, they look at social, knowledge, and task networks, right? So a social network, that is a tool for tracking adversaries to the military. Keep that in mind every time you use one. But also your knowledge network is, how do we take information in? And so a lot of people take information in from your show, Jan. And so getting someone on, like, say, a Fiona Barnett, to muddy the waters by injecting disinformation or easily disprovable claims, that would be an attack on the knowledge network of all of your audience. The other thing is the task network, where that's how do you get something done? If I want something done, I'm going to go to this person. Well, if that person's not available, maybe there's a hole. Maybe the CIA can present someone conveniently there because I need to get this task done and my regular guy is not available, but someone's miraculously appeared to help out. So, by injecting live people playing particular roles into these scenarios, they're able to trigger and achieve different effects. So this has been developed since 1994. It's gone through a number of different generations. There was SIAM in 94 from SAIC. And then the Wagon Horse systems, Caesar 1 in 96, Caesar 2, 99, Caesar 3 around about 2004. Then that became Pythia 2 in 2007. This Pythia system, it doesn't just acquire knowledge, it goes into databases and it works out what's the most valuable knowledge in these databases, and then what tools do I need to understand and apply that knowledge. I mean, this is incredibly sophisticated thought, and still from 10 years ago. We're only just finding out about some of these artificial intelligence projects today. They had a project, Deep Green, that we'll talk about that a bit more in a second. But they're interacting with these AIs by talking to it and feeding drawings to it.
Jacob says feed dropped yet again.
They really don't want us to talk about this, huh?
Jesus, man. Hey, Inky 12, DARPA, NSA, all you guys, can you knock it off? I mean, if you don't want to be...
Fix your internet.
Fix your internet. If you guys don't... Okay, I don't know.